Hello, you lovely lot, and welcome back to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. I am your host, as always, Josh Carr, and we're back in a new year. It is 2022. It's the first podcast of 2022, and it's a special one. It's a special one today. It's not the usual. We're going back to sort of the kind of stuff that we were doing during Flux, and we are going to be discussing Eve of the Daleks, the New Year's Day special, which I hope you all enjoyed. And I'm not going to be doing it alone. When am I ever doing it alone? I, of course, have a wonderful guest with me. And that guest is the one and only Ivy Hanover, the protagonist herself. How are you?
Good. First of all, I'd like to say it was really cool just watching you do that, just because I've listened to the podcast before, and now I'm like watching you do the intro. So that was really cool.
Oh, bless. Well, I mean, thank you for listening. I'm grateful for all of you for listening. It was a very lovely year. I was at the end of the last podcast. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I got a bit emotional and I was a little bit drunk. But I do just want to say again, sober this time, I promise. Thank you very much for everybody who's listened over the past year and a bit. And let's kick off in style. Let's kick off 2022 with a bang. So it's Eve of the Daleks. I had a great time. I'm just going to go out there and say straight away, I had a really good time with this, both times I watched it, because I've now managed to rewatch it as well. What were your thoughts going in? Were you really excited for this one? I mean, did you enjoy Flux as well? Was that something that you enjoyed?
I was mixed on Flux. I really liked the individual episodes. I was a little disappointed with like the story as a whole, but I'm always excited for new Doctor Who, even if I'm a little worried about the story or I'm a little worried about this and that. It's just nice to like have it in general. So I was really excited going in. I think the only thing that like muted my excitement was that weird period between Christmas and New Year's where like it's really hard to get a sense on time.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh, I guess there is new Doctor Who on tomorrow. That's weird. But yeah, I was really excited for it. And I was actually joking with myself that they were going to make a certain thing canon because it was like a New Year's special, and then it ended up happening. So, kudos to me for building that anticipation.
Well, I'm sure we will discuss that. I mean, we'll save that because I want to delve deep into that, and I want to discuss that in depth.
Good. Happy to talk about it.
Yes, so am I. But yeah, no, I feel the same. I mean, it would be remiss of me to not mention, obviously, we're kicking off 2022 with our first overseas guest. This is very exciting to me that Who Knew has gone international, that we have an American on the podcast. My question is, do you get it at the same time as us, or do you get it later? Because I know that in the olden days, you guys used to get Doctor Who after us, I think. And I don't know if they simultaneously broadcast it now.
So the problem is it's hard for me to say because like I like pretty much most Americans these days don't have live TV because it's just too expensive. I mean, it's like $100 a month for some like forms of live TV. So most Americans don't even have it to begin with. So I've never really known about that because actually until the first episode of Flux, I had never like tuned in to BBC America to watch it live.
Yeah.
Like never. That was the first time, and I've been into Doctor Who for like almost 10 years now. Usually it airs, I believe, 6 hours after it airs for you guys. So it airs at about 2 p.m. our time, which is 7 p.m. in what I like to call British people time. And then it airs for us at 8 p.m. So yeah, 6 hours.
Right. Okay. So you've got a dicey like 6-hour period of spoiler avoiding. Did you manage to avoid everything this time, or?
Well, so thankfully I don't mind spoilers.
Oh, good.
Spoilers have never been a big deal for me. And in fact, I don't mind spoilers so much. This was more back in when series 12 was airing. But because I didn't have a way to watch it and I knew I was going to get spoiled anyway, I kind of just like watched the episodes via people's tweets. Like I would
Yeah.
just like constantly be refreshing the timeline while it was airing and trying to piece together like what's happening.
I quite like that approach. I like
Yeah,
the idea that if it's going to get spoiled for me anyway, I may as well just go all in and collect as many spoilers as I possibly can. I like that
right.
approach. I mean, thankfully, it's on the BBC over here, so it's a free channel, which is
And you
lovely.
guys don't have ads during Doctor Who.
You
BBC
are
America is terrible with commercials. I mean,
right.
there's 20 minutes during of commercials about, I think, during the episode.
Oh, that is dreadful. Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Doctor Who should never have commercials or adverts or anything interrupting it.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of that's one of the beauties of the BBC is that you can't have adverts on the BBC, which is so lovely because just means that you can get lost in something and then you just get a few little BBC related ads in between, and then you don't
Yeah,
have to
I
get
think that
interrupted by people selling you things every 5 minutes, which is
it's
nice.
so much better too. And one of the strange things too is sometimes before they get to commercials, they'll have the behind the scenes videos. Like they'll like a scene will play, they never cut it right. It's always cut like really abruptly or oddly. And then they'll
Yeah,
like cut to like a behind the scenes video of the episode that is like still airing.
that is, oh God,
And
no, that's
and then
terrible.
go to like 6 minutes of commercials and then come back and then it feels like you watch the episode for 5 minutes and then it's the same thing. It's so awful.
I I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go out and say I hate that. That sounds
Yeah.
dreadful.
Well,
Because
and I don't know if
if
it's
there's one
because
thing that you want, that like if you don't want to be taken out of the episode, just showing them making the episode whilst
right.
you're watching it that's baffling. But yeah, I don't
And
get that.
I don't know if it was just that episode because like I said, I don't often watch it live. But I was like watching it live. I had already seen it, but my like the people I was watching with hadn't seen it yet. So I was kind of like excited to show it to them, and then I could tell that they were just kind of like, "Why is this here?" And I was like
Yeah.
embarrassed. I was like, "I don't know why this is here." Like secondhand
Oh,
embarrassment.
yeah, no, that's really strange. Really, really strange. Anyway, enough of me dunking on Americans' methods of broadcasting TV. Let's get into the episode. So, I mean, we'll go through step by step. I mean, the we had a very, very long pre-title sequence. I think it's the longest ever
Oh yeah.
pre-title sequence that we've ever had, which was like 9.5 minutes, which I enjoyed. I really, really enjoyed the start of it. I think we basically got the whole first loop before the titles. So it kicks off with Sarah and Nick, and we meet those characters. I love them from the off. Why did I not check the pronunciation? Because I've said it like 18 times. Ashling?
I was
Ashling?
going to comment on that because I thought it was like Aislingby, and then
Yeah.
I
No.
heard somebody pronounce it as Ashling, and I'm like, wait. And this always happens with like a lot of overseas stuff for me. Is it's like I always pronounce it a certain way in my head, and then I hear somebody say it, and I'm like,
Yeah,
wait.
it's then hard to change it. Yeah, so apologies to any Irish listeners if I've butchered that. I am incredibly ignorant and forgot to Google it before I recorded the podcast. So I do apologize. I'm going to stick with Ashling because I believe that that's what it is. I think that's what I've heard before. And if I'm wrong, you have full permission to crucify me in the comments. So there you go. Enjoy that. Yeah, Ashling B was hilarious from the off. I thought absolutely brilliant. She's someone that I think loads of people who recognize her over here from like comedy panel shows and a couple of other sitcoms and stuff like that. People have wanted her in Doctor Who for ages. And because she is just hilarious, and I think she just elevates through the whole episode. I think she just takes the comedy to another level. But yeah, I thought she was brilliant from the off. What were your thoughts on Sarah throughout the episode?
Yeah, so I actually, again, feel free to crucify me if I mispronounce it, but Aisling B, I had never seen her in anything before. So this
Mhm.
was my first impression, whereas it seems like a lot of other people kind of knew her beforehand. And yeah, I thought she did a great job. I loved her accent. Just like listening to her talk was great. Um, and yeah, I thought she did really good with like her delivery and just her performance in that kind of situation with that character.
Mhm. Yeah, and I like Nick as well. I like Nick at the start. Obviously, there I had a few issues with Nick later on
Yeah.
in the episode, which we'll get to. But yeah, I really like Nick in that opening scene. I think it's just a perfect little scene that I think by the end of it, you know those two characters, you know exactly how they'd react in various different situations. You get their personalities. You know that Nick is shy and awkward and probably has a crush on Sarah. And you know that Sarah is sarcastic and a little bit tetchy, obviously. Um, but yeah, really, really funny scene, really good scene. And then we get the other section of the opening titles, um, which is Jodie, Yaz, and Dan finally together and just having a nice, normal, non-fluxy adventure, which seems to me a little bit. I'm a bit sad about it because their dynamic from the off was so good. I was
I
so
know.
happy
I wish
with.
we had gotten so much more time with
Yeah, I
Dan
just
and
feel
their
like,
team specifically.
yeah, I feel like if we had a full series now of just like fun adventures and you know, so a series like series 12 or series 11 now with the Dr. Yaz and Dan, I think it'd be great. But you know, now we've only got 2 episodes left with them, which
Oh
does make me
gosh.
feel a bit sad. But you know, leave them wanting more. That's the phrase. You know that, and Big Finish can do
Yeah,
that.
I was about to say that's our solution to everything in the Hooniverse is Big Finish might do it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
if something is underdeveloped, just give it to Nick Briggs,
yeah.
and you know, I'm sure he will make 85 box sets out of it. So that's
Yeah,
great.
I'm really sad that we only have 2 episodes with these guys. And the second episode is I believe is the centenary special. I don't know how to pronounce
Yeah.
that word. So, that'll kind of I feel like their dynamic will mostly be overshadowed by, everything else that will no doubt be in that special.
Hmm.
So it's so like I feel like we probably only have like 1 episode with them,
Hmm.
which it feels like a crime. Because
Yeah.
they seem really great together, and it's just like it'll be like the TV movie where we'll all look back and say these guys should have gotten a lot more time together than they did.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I completely agree. But yeah, so we get that really lovely looking scene in the TARDIS with the whole TARDIS reset, where the different color lights are flashing, and then as they run out, the walls are all moving, and the central console rises up, and everything's just going crazy. I love that. I've really grown to love this TARDIS interior over the years. I think when they first showed it, I was like, that ain't for me, but I can live with it. And then series 12, they added the stairs and they did some more jazzy things with it. And I was like, okay, I can live with it. I can definitely get on board with this for another series. And then Flux, when they started just fucking about with it, I was in. I love it. I really, really, really love it now. Um, but yeah, great little scene. And then obviously we go and go into the time loop and everyone starts getting exterminated and Daleks show up. I did watch your video. Now, I feel like a, an anger is brewing within me. No, I'm joking. But I did hear you say that you're not the biggest Dalek fan.
I'm not,
You're
no.
not. No. I mean,
I
I'm going to let you say your piece. I'll let you try and justify such a heinous comment. I'm joking. I'm really
You
joking.
have a shelf of
But
Daleks behind you. Like as
yeah,
you're saying this
they're
to me.
here. They're here waiting to hear your comments. So,
Yeah,
they're looking over upon you in judgment. Please explain to me how you don't like the Daleks.
I knew that's always gotten like a little rise out of people. I just it feels somewhat unfair to say I don't like them specifically. I more don't like that they show up so often.
Mhm.
It just feels like they're sort of constantly there. And I believe I mentioned in my video, it's hard to keep up that illusion of them being like these terrifying, undefeatable creatures when they show up like every 5 seconds. And
Yeah,
yeah, but I think that they are a great like concept. Like I especially that's
yeah,
why I really liked the first Dalek episodes or serials in Classic Who, is because like it just a little bit more toned down and like not too repetitive and ambitious. I mean,
mhm.
granted, it couldn't be repetitive because it's the first time they show up. Um, but yeah, so it's harder for me to like get fully immersed in that kind of fear and that concept of like they're these indestructible, terrifying beings when usually they're defeated quite easily. I feel like these days,
Yeah,
especially like in the past, there was always kind of like some really clever or like just different way that they got defeated, or maybe it's just because, especially in Jodie's era, they don't really explain it too well, like how they get defeated. Um,
yeah. There has been. I mean, obviously, you are very welcome to that opinion. I am only joking.
yeah.
I'm a bit of a Dalek fanboy, just because. Just out of pure nostalgia, really. That's just my childhood, just shouty boys on the TV. And I mean, I do share some of the same grievances, especially over the past, especially in the Moffat era. I was a bit, I was like, yeah, just give them a break for a while, because I don't think
Right.
these stories are working. I don't think they're threatening, and they're also not funny. I feel like you have to either, there is a fine scale of, like, you either make the Daleks really funny and a bit silly, like you do in episodes like The Chase, or I don't know, Revolution of the Daleks is a little bit of a silly Dalek story as well.
Well, in this
Um,
one, they tried to be as well. Like,
yeah,
especially with the Daleks saying, I am not Nick, which, first of all, I'm so happy they gave that line to
it's
Nicholas
so
Briggs.
meta. I love
But
it.
I
It's
agree.
hilarious.
I agree they do need to choose. And especially like, um, especially in Eve, it did feel like half of it was really serious and it was this kind of like doom and gloom kind of
Mm.
concept, and then half of it was like humorous, so it did kind of feel like just a little bit uneven there.
Oh, see now, I think I disagree. I share the same point, but I like that. I think Eve got a really good balance for the Daleks, because I think if you make them just completely hilarious all the time, they're not threatening, and you can't make them a big bad. And then if you make them really, really threatening all the time, they just become a bit dull and overpowered, and you can't have any fun with them. And I think Eve, it, look, it didn't do anything groundbreaking with the Daleks. This isn't revolutionary or anything like that. I think Resolution did something brand new with the Daleks, and it took them into a story that we've never seen a Dalek in that kind of position before, and we've never seen them controlling people out of their shells and stuff like that. So it did something different. This is not what the Daleks are here for this time. I
Yeah.
feel like they're basically doing a bit of a greatest hits in this episode, and
Right,
they're
and
giving
I do
us,
agree that
yeah,
there is I actually do agree, like it's in this weird, phase. But I do agree, like, that it's nice when they find a balance. Because I've tweeted before, one of my favorite things about the old Dalek episodes is when they would just like pick them up and throw them around.
Yeah.
Or like put blankets on the floor. And so I do love when Doctor Who doesn't take itself too seriously.
Mhm.
So yeah, I guess, yeah, I do agree with that, actually.
Yeah.
And like I said, just kudos to them for that little Nicholas Briggs joke.
Yeah, there's some great lines in this. There's some great Dalek lines, and I imagine when Nicholas, because he is not Nick, when Nicholas Briggs got the script, I imagine he read through it and had an absolute whale of a time, because a few personal favourites. Daleks do not have managers was one of my favourite lines. I'm trying to remember now. My brain is like a sieve. Yeah, I am not Nick was a hilarious one. They're just they I just love how, I don't know. I just think they got them spot on in this episode for
Yeah.
me. I was like,
Well,
this is exactly what I love about the Daleks. It's like I said, it's a bit of a greatest hits. They're not doing anything different, and I think that's fine. If you want to just do a fun Dalek story, especially on New Year's Day, like I was sat there hungover, in my pajamas, eating chocolate, and I was like, I don't really have the brain power to get into
it's
intense
just
Dalek
fun.
lore today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted a bit of fun, and they delivered. I think there's some really scary looking shots. There's the one in particular which I think we'd seen beforehand in promo material, where Nick's in the corridor and the lights all go red.
Yes,
Um,
he's got the flat, or that one and the one with the flashlight.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
I thought those were lovely.
Yeah, yeah, they shoot the Daleks so well. Another one after that scene, which again we'll get to, where Yaz looks over Dan's shoulder and the light flickers on, like they've gone into like stealth mode and turned all their lights off so they can sneak around in the dark. That is so cool, and it's so Dalek-y, and I love
And
it.
one thing I brought up in my video is I really like it when there's like a very minimal amount of Daleks. Like when there's only
Mhm.
like 2 or 3, or even
Yeah.
just one. Like I think that's when they get them really scary. Because I say in my video my feelings on them being kind of like an odd, you know, they can't be defeated, but they can be. I feel like that is really, I feel that the most when there's like the big armies of Daleks and like the
Mm.
sea of spaceships. But when there's only like 2 or 3 and you're seeing like how much of a threat just those few can be, I think that's like really powerful. And I think that was like a definite like pro of this episode for me.
Yeah. Well, someone tweeted. Oh, I feel like I need to find the tweet now, because it was a hilarious tweet, but it really does sum up the Daleks. And I can't remember. I do apologize. If I find it, I'll retweet it. But I think the sentiment behind it was like, look, these guys are based on the Nazis, so that like they're obviously incredibly clever, but at the same time they are so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Which is the Daleks. That is perfect. Like they're so clever, but they think that their strategy and intelligence is what makes them great, but emotionally they are thick and stupid, which is great. And again, I think they nailed that in this episode as well. And I think that's even it is shown better when there's only one or two
Yeah.
Daleks around,
Yeah, they're
because
so clever that they think they can handle it, and then they sort of trip over themselves if a Dalek
yeah,
could.
yeah, and their fascism and their fascist tendencies is what trips them up, and their cockiness and their brute force. And yeah, I think they nailed it. I think. And yeah, going back to the direction as well, I feel like I should shout out Annetta Laufer, I believe her name is. um Fantastic first effort for directing Doctor Who. I
Oh, first
like
time. Yeah.
first,
No, that was
first time
great.
director. She has knocked it out of the park. And I remember reading that she she was like really excited about the idea of doing like a bottle episode, I think, and she went back and watched Midnight before
Oh,
directing it.
okay.
And I feel like you can see that. I think there's elements in there that you can see that she really wanted to get the claustrophobic nature of like being trapped in this building and being trapped in those like narrow corridors.
Yeah, and I think they did a good job because the storage units looked huge. Like from the get-go, like the individual storage units looked huge, but with the way they shot it, like kind of in the same spots of the storage units, they felt small. Like they looked big enough to where I was like, I don't think realistically a storage unit would be that large, but it
Yeah.
felt so small because you could feel that containment and like that being stuck there.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely agree. I mean, moving into more of the bulk of the episode, so after the titles, I think that's when we start getting into the time loop stuff, which is a concept that I've wanted Doctor Who to play around with for ages.
I
I've
love
wanted to
time.
do them. Yeah, I
I
love
love
time
time.
loops.
Like Heaven Sent is one of my favorite episodes because it's
Yeah,
like it basically is a time loop.
yeah,
I mean, maybe not
basically,
a
yeah,
time loop, but a life death loop.
yeah.
But yeah, I love time loops and I love that sort of energy of like, let's get it wrong until we get it right. I love
Hmm.
that.
Yeah,
So I immediately when they said it was a time loop episode, I was like, let's do this. I'm hype.
yeah. No, I was so into it, and I think they did it really, really well. I think one of my favorite ones is the second loop
Mm,
because you have all of the characters. They play on the deja vu thing where all of the characters are starting to to say the lines as they did in the first loop, but then they sort of catch themselves and they then start deviating off the path in little ways. And then like you've got that bit between Nick and Sarah where they're predicting, what each other are going to say. I think they just played it really, really well. And then they did really interesting stuff with the time loops as well, which was really nice to see. Like I thought, like there is a danger of this just being, oh yeah, it's just the same thing over and over and over again. But they did that perfect Doctor Who thing of putting a little twist on it. So the things like, I mean, the main things being losing a minute every time is a great idea to add like
I
a nice
loved
ticking
that.
clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Okay, there's a classic Who episode that it reminded me of, and I'm gonna Google it just to make sure I'm getting it right because I have the worst memory. Okay, hang on. But yeah, I definitely loved that rule of the minute getting shorter because then there's
yeah.
like it's not just like they have an infinite amount of tries to get it right. It's
Yeah.
like we do have a limited time to get this right.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, like in films like Groundhog Day, obviously you get the time loop, but they sort of in Groundhog Day have fun with the fact that there's not really any consequences to his actions because he just wakes up and the day's reset again. So then there's not really any stakes. So if you're trying to tell like a comedy story, it works. But if you're trying to tell like a Doctor Who Dalek action story, you need the stakes there. And I think the fact that you lose a minute every time and you are running out of time as you get close to midnight is a perfect way of doing that. It's a very, very clever idea. But yeah, I mean, did you find the episode that you
I
were?
think so. I'm trying. It's okay. I remember it's like a fourth Doctor and Romana episode. Romana won, I believe, and they're trying to like prevent something from crashing, and it seems like time is kind of stretching a little bit.
Um,
Um. Okay, I
what
feel
one
like
is
it's
it?
the Armageddon factor, but I also feel like it isn't. Like
Yeah,
I
I
have the
think
worst.
no, I'm trying to remember that I'm a bit hazy on that bit. It's
I'm
not
on
Stones of
Wikipedia with
Blood.
the plot.
Yeah, it's not Stones of Blood, and I don't think it'd be the first one, which I can't remember the
I'm
name
gonna
of right
be
now.
so upset when we finish this podcast and I remember it
You're
immediately.
gonna remember it. Well, I'm sure everybody in the comments is screaming it. I mean, we'll go with the Armageddon factor. Let's
Yeah, I
stick with
feel like
that and rock with it.
not
I can't remember anything about the Armageddon factor. apart from a bit of a hammy villain.
There, and that's it. I believe that one was 6 parts, which if it's a 6-parter, the chances that I won't remember a lot become so much like more of a risk.
Yeah, there's
Like,
so much of it.
The 7-parter, the Daleks, and I was like, so what happened? Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's also good that no one tried a time loop story in Classic Who, because I don't know if I could have taken a 6-part time loop story
Oh
of
gosh, they probably would have
basically
made
the same
sense.
parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have. I love Classic Who dearly, but that would have dragged. I think we all know that would have dragged.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think, like I said, I think they nailed it here with that aspect of losing a second. I also think the good thing about it was the fact that the Daleks could basically just pop more versions of themselves in each time.
Yeah, so they were kind of like at the mercy where they can't really like change too much in their approach, but the Daleks kind of have that upper hand of like they can.
Yeah, and again, it just adds to the stakes of it. And I think, like you said, like if it's going to be repetitive and they're just going to do the same things over and over again, that there are no stakes to that. And if they've got an infinite number of tries, there's no stakes. But I think Chibnall has a good eye on adding stakes into to things like that. I think there's times where he's been a bit hit and miss on stuff like that, but I think here he nails it. Definitely
Yeah,
nails
especially when they say Nick, if he dies, you know, at 11:55, which they were doing we call it military time, which is when it's the 24. And so I was like, what time is that? But thankfully they said it was close to midnight. So I was like, all right, I'm good. But especially when they said like, oh, if he dies at this time and then it loops back, but it's after that time, he'll be dead permanently. I thought that was really interesting. Because then it's like, now that they're getting down to the final few minutes, they need to like really get going.
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, like I said, I mean, it just keeps the pace going as well, because it just means there's always something new to worry about, even when they overcome one hurdle, like figuring out that they're in a time loop. Then they've got the problem of the clock ticking down. Then they figure that out, and then they've got the problem of, well, when the clock ticks down to that time, then Nick's going to have died. So yeah, I think really, really smart. Really, really well executed as well. I think it's such a hard thing to do, because I imagine you're basically shooting slightly different versions of the exact same scene every single time, and trying to get that right and trying to get it so that it's different enough that you can tell that it's different, but it's also not, it's also similar enough, but it's not repetitive, is so difficult. And I wouldn't even know where to start with that. So I mean, congrats to everybody who worked on the episode, because you pulled it off. It works. It definitely worked. I mean, I want to touch on a couple of issues, slight issues. I don't think they're major issues for me, and I think there's one that a few people have said is quite a large problem, and I can see where they're coming from. Nick and the stuff in the storage unit with the ex-girlfriends is creepy.
That was weird.
Yeah, really weird. So I don't understand why they did that, because
I don't know either. And well, it was like they could have just had him like putting some stuff in the storage unit, and he's like, oh yeah, some of this is from my exes. But the fact that he like names and dates each one, and they're like all like spread out in the store. Oh god, I literally got I thought he was like a serial killer. Like my red flag alert just started going like pew pew. And one of the
alarm
characters,
bells were going off.
Yaz even asks, she's like, they're still alive, right? It's the serial killer vibes were just off the charts. And it was so unfortunate, because I had been like rooting for his character as, you know, that kind of lovable weirdo, and then they threw that in, and there was like a solid 5 minutes where I was just sitting there like, why would they put that in?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
why would they do that?
yeah, it's just really strange. I mean, I could find that, especially on the first viewing, I did on the second viewing, sorry, I did sort of move past it a bit and think, okay, just push that to one side. He's a bit weird. But yeah, there are so many things that you could do that would be weird, and it would show that he is a strange person and not normal, and you still get that message later on with the good-hearted weirdos, and it all still works. Like something that's weird, like maybe he collects like Sylvanian family dolls, or maybe he
Yeah,
collects like teddy bears and he keeps them all in there. That's
maybe he's a
normal,
Beanie Baby fanatic.
but
Yeah,
weird. Yeah, it's like it's weird for normal people, but not to a creepy level.
yeah.
It's fine. I don't know. They're just, why the ex-girlfriends? Why would
I
you
know,
do
and I
that?
mentioned the secondhand embarrassment thing. It was like I felt embarrassed watching it, even though
Yeah.
I don't have, a storage unit full of my ex-girlfriend's belongings.
No, I
But
don't
it
either.
was more just like embarrassed. Well, maybe not embarrassed, but just so weirded out that it's like, why would you do that? Like, why would you
Yeah.
put that in?
And
It felt horrible.
yeah, I like the fact that the characters call him out on it, which then, I think that softens the blow slightly. That Sarah does like lose it a bit. Um, and but then you have another very strange moment where Nick's reaction to that is to just commit suicide and go out of the
I
unit.
think I ended up deleting the tweet. I think just because I'm like, I'll just delete tweets to keep my account clean sometimes and
Yeah.
organized. But I think I tweeted, I was like, he got roasted so hard. He was literally just like, I'll go die and sacrifice myself. And I'm like, okay, well, wow. Um,
it was a
it just
very
got
extreme reaction.
Yeah, because Sarah, she's literally like just the bare minimum. Like, hey, it's kind of weird that you have your ex-girlfriend's belongings in a storage unit and you show up every New Year's Eve to see me and to put your ex's belongings in a storage unit. And he's like, well, guess I'll go die. And it's like, what? Like, how did we get from point A to point Z?
Yeah, there's a jump there. There's a
Yeah.
jump, and it just feels very strange.
Well, and I think I saw someone, and again, just like you, I don't know who tweeted it, so I can't really give a source, but I believe someone tweeted out that it's like weird too to like have a character call another character out on their weirdness, and then they like sacrifice themselves as kind of like a redemption for it, but it's like, no, it's still weird.
Yeah,
Like, it's still weird.
that whole section just didn't really work for me, and I don't think it furthered. Like Nick sacrificing himself there does not really change anything in the plot. Like he's back
Right.
again a few minutes later. Um, it also makes things just more confusing, because then I feel like the only reason he dies there is because he is so that Sarah can save him in the next loop, because he didn't know about the plan. That's the only reason he's dead. But there are different ways that you can kill him. For example, the Dalek just shoots him. That would be fine, rather than him being a stalker and keeping his ex-girlfriend's things and then sacrificing himself. It just doesn't work. I
Yeah,
just
and like
don't
it
vibe with
doesn't
that.
really, like I said, it seems like in the story it's supposed to serve as kind of like a sympathy thing that like, oh no, this guy is actually, he has a good heart. I
Mhm.
believe they literally said the good-hearted weirdos. And but no, it's just like that still doesn't sit right with me, Dalek
Yeah,
sacrifice or not.
yeah, and it's like and Nick later on in the episode has some really nice moments. Like he
Yeah.
has some really funny moments, and he does have some nice moments. And it sort of, yeah, you do, like I said, on a second rewatch, I could sort of just shut it out a bit, but
Yeah,
I
it
shouldn't
doesn't
really
for
have to shut it
me.
out. But
Yeah, for me, it doesn't sour his character as a whole or like the episode as a
yeah,
whole. It just is like this definitely weird moment where it's like this definitely could have been done differently.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are in agreement there, from what I've seen on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, let's jump over and we'll go and see what everybody has had to say about this episode
Okay.
over
Pull
on
up too.
bloody Twitter.
For God's sake! Bloody Twitter!
So, bloody Twitter time. Let's have a little look. So, first message is from Oscar Groucho's, a good friend of the show. He said, a show in transition, the slow burn exploration of 13 and Yaz's dynamic and its implications mirrored by the way the time loop reflected Yaz's conflicting emotions trapped within her own feelings. The jubilant celebration of the new year down accompanied her own personal epiphany. Oscar, you write things so eloquently that
Yeah, that was so beautiful.
I know my tiny stupid brain just goes, oh, words, but very, very well put.
Yeah, that is really
agree.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean we have another message here, because obviously I think what a lot of people are here to see us talk about is Thasmin. We're here to talk about Yaz and that incredible scene. And I've got a really, really nice message here. It's really long, but I wanted to include it all.
Yeah, I actually we're talking about the same one. They commented on my YouTube video and I was like, hey, I'm gonna be on this podcast if you could like leave a comment there and we can chat about it.
We can chat about it. Well, yeah, I thought let's just, because we didn't have too many responses because this has been a bit of a quick turnaround. So we'll go through it. So Charlie at She Regenerated, they have written this really beautifully worded message, which I think will kick off our discussion about Yaz. So they've said, okay, so of the Dan outing Yaz thing I mentioned to you already, with a sort of as not a good thing, but also just loving this slow burn and Yaz really coming into her own. The peace and acceptance in her expression at the end, that feeling of the weight lifted off your chest after coming out, amazing. Plus, she is not looking back at the doctor, but she's focused on herself. It really says a lot about how far she has come. She's always been looking to the doctor. The doctor even expects her to be looking back. It takes great courage to be true to yourself. She's come so far. It's been 6 years, and the arc she is it's been 6 years and the arc she has is something so many of us can see in ourselves. She needed every one of those years to discover herself. It's not something that can be rushed. Everyone is on their own journey, as you can see by everything I've retweeted in the past 34 hours. My most important coming out story is coming out to yourself. The most important coming out story is coming out to yourself. Not being able to distinguish platonic from romantic love is common in the Sapphic community. Are we friends, or are we flirting, or are we friends flirting? That's gay culture right there. So thank you, Charlie. That was an absolutely beautifully worded message, one of the best that bloody Twitter has ever seen.
And I'm so happy that they decided to discuss this with us, because they had mentioned that perspective of Dan outing Yaz in my YouTube comments, and I hadn't seen that yet. I hadn't seen anyone sort of bring that up or think that yet. So I thought, well, this could be really important to share and discuss. And then they go into this very, very beautiful and very true like other discussion there. And yeah, so I really appreciate that really long, really, really wonderful response there.
Yeah, well, yeah, very, very eloquently put. And I mean, let's be honest, I am not the person to lead the charge on commenting on representation in the queer community, because I'm a straight white bloke. But I mean, from a standpoint, I think I made it clear in Flux that I think near the start of that, I was sort of like with Yaz's relationship with the doctor, I was like, if they do it, I'm happy. If they don't do it, I still don't really mind, and I still enjoy both of the characters. And then as Flux went on, I slowly became a Thasmin stan, and I
Same.
think I've reclaimed myself on the podcast. I was like, I need this to happen now. I need to see this, please.
We
Because
both came out as Thasmin shippers, I
yeah,
feel
we
like.
did.
I didn't ship them at all until like Flux happened. And then I was like, oh, well, this could be fun. And then I started reading fan fiction, and that was like a rabbit hole, and now we're
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, no, it was Survivors of the Flux, I think. And I saw it and I was like, that hologram scene was so beautifully performed by Mandip. I was like, I just want to see more of that. And this episode obviously delivers in ways that I don't think people expected, which is really, really lovely. So we get that beautiful scene outside of the TARDIS. Obviously, there's a bit of a disagreement between the Doctor and Yaz, and then Dan finally is the one to instigate this beautiful moment where Yaz starts to come to terms with who she is. And like I said, I'm not, I'm hardly the person to comment on representation, but I've seen people's reactions to it. I mean, I cheered, I stood up, and I was like, "This is great! This is amazing!" Yeah,
I mean, I shared most of my, like, I didn't get the first part because then I had to scramble for my phone and start recording. Oh my god, it has 16,000 views. My
wow.
reaction is just me like starting to cry because I just when it happened, I was shocked, and then it like fully hit me as the scene went on that like this is actually happening. Like I am actually watching this. And just like I got so much more emotional than I thought I would get.
Yeah, I mean, your reaction was the first like live reaction that I watched on Twitter, when you shared it around, and I just like again, I just want to keep reiterating, this is not really my.
You don't have to. I
Yeah,
feel bad.
yeah. Well, I just want to.
But
I
then
mean,
you're back.
obviously, I am very much an advocate for these kinds of things. I obviously want more of this, and I want as much representation in Doctor Who as possible because it means so much to me, and it's a show that I feel like it's built on representation, and especially New Who, it's something that I feel has been coming for a very long time. And obviously we've had queer characters in the past, which is fantastic. But I think seeing that moment of Yaz coming out on screen, and Mandip's performance was just it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole of the 13th Doctor's era. Just because of Mandip's performance, I think you can just see every ounce of confusion and panic and just that every ounce of it on her face, and it's so beautifully played. So well done to Mandip as well. But yeah, and then going on Twitter,
yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah, just going on Twitter and seeing how much it means to everybody, and seeing how much this representation means was beautiful.
Yeah, and for me, I think I said this in my video, but I think most of the emotion I felt was like on behalf of other people, because being on Doctor Who Twitter, and I especially have this one really good friend in a group chat who ships them, and I just like I was thinking of every single one of them, and I was just thinking like how much this is going to mean to all of them, and just I was so happy for them. I was like, they're gonna be so happy, this is gonna be so special for them. And I think that's why I got so emotional. It's just like knowing how much it was going to be for people.
No, and like I said, it was an absolutely lovely moment, and I feel like not the moment itself, but that the going on Twitter while it was happening and just after the episode was like, it was a bit of a moment in the community, and I really loved it. And I loved being on Twitter and seeing everybody's reactions to it, and just seeing everybody celebrating just a fantastic episode, a fantastic performance, but this fantastic example of representation in Doctor Who as well. I think the best thing about it as well, which is what Charlie in that wonderful message touched upon, is the fact that it's not, because I mean, obviously we talk about Thasmin and, you know, people standing and shipping, which is great and obviously very exciting, but it's the fact that it doesn't focus on that for the time being. It focuses on, in that scene, it focuses on Yaz and just her individual moment of coming to terms with who she is. It's not specifically about that relationship. It's about her and her character and her life. So beautifully played. I just can't. Yeah.
I love how Charlie mentioned like that Yaz is kind of focusing on herself in that final scene. I thought that was really beautiful, especially because we know that, you know, there was a little bit of a hint of a storyline and that there was going to be more of a storyline with Yaz's mental health and her journey. So yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, and I hope we get more of it. I just hope, because I think the worry now is there is not a lot of time left, like we said, for this dynamic.
I'm so nervous.
And I mean, it's like I said, it's great that it's come, and I think thinking on it now, I think, look, we've got probably a full hour-long special. We've got the full centenary special. If they really like lean into it and they make it a focus, because I think it's probably it's the best part of this episode. It is the driving focus behind this episode, and I feel like you have to run with that and you have to see it through. If you're going to do it, you can't just do it for this moment.
Yeah, I will be immensely upset if they don't do anything with it. If at least they address it. I mean, a lot of people have mentioned that it's probably going to be a situation where the Doctor has to let Yaz down, or there's a regeneration before anything happens. But if they at least address it, I'll be fine with that. I just hope it's not just like a one-off thing and they go right back to like playing around it, because the Doctor does know at this point. So it's not like only Yaz and Dan know and they can kind of keep avoiding it. It's like everybody knows now.
I think Legend of the Sea Devils, we'll get to that as well in a little while. Legend of the Sea Devils has some heavy lifting to do emotionally for this, for it to be able to work. I
think, like, I love Doctor Who because you look at the Sea Devils and you're like, could this episode be an emotional tearjerker? Probably. Doctor Who could do it, and it's just like these like rubbery looking Sea Devils.
Yeah. Chinese pirates, rubbery Sea Devils, and just
they look great.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah. I mean, we'll touch on that now. I mean, we're pretty. I think we've pretty much covered a lot of the general things. I mean, in terms of specific moments, and just before we sign off from that, thank you, Charlie, for that wonderful message again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going through my notes now. I mean, just in terms of a few little moments that I wanted to talk about. Dan versus the Dalek with the box is such a good scene.
I love John Bishop. I love him. He's doing a great job. Like, Kelly loves being Dan.
Yeah, I love Dan as well. And I love that. I think there's a lovely little juxtaposition between Sarah, like, in that loop, basically, like, binning off everybody else and being really, really selfish. And then Dan, like, showing like how he can be heroic and kind and do something decent for them.
Yeah.
I just love his character. I think he's great. Like I said, I know that some people had a few issues with Dan outing Yaz to the Doctor, which, yeah, I mean, it could have been handled a little bit differently. Like I said, again, not
for me, I feel like it was more like he knew that there was like a risk that they weren't going to make it out, and he wanted his best friends to at least have like a chance to like.
Yeah, I think there's that context.
It could have been
that they could be about to die. Yeah, I think you have to remember that context in there. But yeah, I just I think Dan was great. Jodie was great in this episode as well. She's been great recently. I love. I think you pointed this out in your review. Like I loved like the early hopeful stuff, but she's really clicked for me now.
Yeah,
She's started
like,
getting anger and
I like series 11 because it feels more Jodie. But I feel like series 12 and 13 or Flux and this feel more like the Doctor.
Yeah, completely agree. There's that anger, there's the responsibility there, and you can sort of feel the age of the Doctor more on her now.
Sure.
Like there's one of my favorite moments. There's obviously that great scene where they're in, I think it's like the third or fourth loop, where they're all in the reception and they're discussing it, and then at the end they turn around and you get Sagan's score like booming out, which was again perfect. And they all get exterminated. That's a great little Doctor moment. But I love it, the one after that, where basically the plan goes wrong and just straight at the start of the loop, Jodie's just marching around saying, "I'm angry now." And that was a great little moment for Jodie. I thought she plays the anger really, really well now. And I think she's got the perfect balance over the past series and a half.
I loved it.
Yeah, and I think I think it's wrapped up really well. I think the plan works. There's a bit of over reliance on the sonic screwdriver again, which does irritate me a bit. Like, just I want to see Jodie like come up with something like interesting, or like improvise her way out of a situation like we've seen other Doctors do, rather than just waving the sonic screwdriver. We had this quite a lot with the 11th Doctor as well, and it does just, it's not a massive issue.
Yeah,
we
need something like with the 10th Doctor and Smith and Jones, where it gets destroyed for a story or something.
Yeah, I just think there's a couple of moments in this story where there are other ways that the Doctor could have found that information out rather than using the sonic screwdriver, and it's just an easy way of getting past it. And I don't mind it as a little plot device every now and again. I just think it was quite heavily used in this story.
Yeah, and really that's in all of Whittaker's era, that's kind of been a problem. So I hope it just gets like destroyed for a story or replaced with sunglasses. You never know.
Oh yeah. I think Jodie would rock sonic sunglasses, definitely. And I think that's it. I think we've covered a lot of the episode. Oh, one thing, which I proclaimed on Twitter, I think is probably the strangest, maddest moment in Doctor Who that I've seen for a very long time. Carl from The Woman Who Fell to Earth is back. Why is he there?
I didn't know who he was. I think I was recording my reaction still at that point, because I thought there was going to be like a cliffhanger or something, so I always just just in case. And I think I was recording my reaction, and at one point I'm like, who the hell is that guy? I'm wondering if I still I don't think I still have it.
Yeah, it's just such a strange cameo at such a strange time, like just sandwiched in like right at the end of the episode, and he's just on his own watching fireworks. And I was like, when I first saw him, I was like, oh my god, is this going to link back to Tim Shaw? Is there going to be like some kind of, no, he's just there watching fireworks?
Yeah, Tim Shaw shows up and they're romantic watching fireworks together. They've settled their differences.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah.
But I thought he was supposed to be the mysterious Jeff guy. And he wasn't. And then everyone was like, oh, it's Carl. And I was like, oh, it's Carl. Like, who's that? Like, just so to go along with it. Like, oh yeah, Carl, I love that guy. And then like Googling who he is.
Yeah, absolutely baffling. Absolutely baffling. We did actually have one last question as well from Repta at Repta66. which is what was one thing that could have been done better in Eve of the Daleks. I think we've answered a couple of things that we thought could have been done better. Like Nick is my answer probably. I don't know if that's the
it's
same.
like those kind of smaller things too, because there's not really any big things I would have fixed. I think like overall bird's eye view, it's great. Just when you get to those like kind of smaller moments that become a little bit questionable later on.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think overall I really, really, really like it. Like it's definitely like in my top 10 Jodie stories. I think it's in my top 10 Dalek stories of like New Who. I just really, really enjoyed it. I think it was a great laugh, and I think it's got a lot of rewatchability as well. I think it's one that I'll always enjoy. See, like Flux is great, and there was a lot of good stuff in Flux, and there's some things that I wasn't keen on. But in terms of rewatching it, like it's hard to just jump in and out of an episode there. So it was quite nice to just have like a one-off episode, and it's like if I'm bored on an afternoon and I don't know what to stick on, I could just stick Eve of the Daleks on and have a great time. And I like that. I like that aspect.
Yeah, I agree with that. I thought it was a really strong episode overall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Repta also said, "What are you hoping for in Legend of the Sea Devils?"
Well, pun not intended there. I think mainly just more character interactions between the three, like the main trio.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I am getting a little bit nervous. It's only 2 episodes left. So I don't actually know too much about the Sea Devils. And I love the historicals where I don't know what the context of the historical is. So I'm very in the dark about it, and I like to keep it that way, because then when I see the episode, it's like just clean slate there.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited for it. I'm very, very excited for the Sea Devils to come back, because I think they're probably like, I think you've got your A-tier monsters, which is basically like Dalek, Cybermen, Master, and then you've got that sort of B tier of like Sontarans, Weeping Angels, all of these, and I think they're probably like the last monster from that category that hasn't really returned.
I've people saw the water and they were like, Sea Devils?
yeah, and I just think I think they really work. Like the concept of them is made for a Chibnall story. I just think he loves, especially with like, it doesn't, I don't know if they're going to go down this route, but in terms of like stories about climate change and the environment, I'm surprised he's not done it earlier, to be honest, because he has leaned into that kind of stuff in this era quite a bit, especially in the past couple of series. And like the Sea Devils are basically ready made for a story like that. But they've put them in a really mad setting again. Like you said, I don't know a lot about this historical era. They're the best kinds of historicals, ones where I actually go in and I learn something.
I love that. We got that with Mary Seacole a little bit. And even with Nikola Tesla a little bit. I didn't really know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix something on my board here.
Right.
Yeah, so I love it when I can learn a little bit, because I like to learn about history, but not too much. So when you can combine history with like aliens, it's like, all right.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I mean, did you have any other things that you wanted to touch on? I can't think of anything else, but just in case there was anything in your notes that you wanted to bring up.
I sort of got my list here, but I think we covered it all. I think the general idea of the list is like, I liked how all the characters kind of got their own moments to shine across the loops. I thought that was nice, because then it felt like, they all had a purpose and they all had their moment. So I liked that.
Well, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, completely agree. Well, Chibnall, well done. You've done it again. You're doing. I'm a big fan of what the route that Doctor Who's going down at the minute, and I really, really, really enjoyed this. And speaking of Chibnall, before we go, obviously, there is a returning segment that we must stick to, and we must return to it. And it's the one and only Quiz Chibnall. So we've got the nice little jazzy theme tune going, and I have got a quiz question for you.
Oh, great.
So Ivy, are you ready? Are you ready for your question?
Maybe.
We'll
see when I hear the question.
This is a tough one. Look, I do struggle to come up with these, and obviously we know from past experiences, listeners, that I struggle to deliver them too, and I struggle to create them. But half of the time, that's TARDIS Wiki's fault. So, this one is quite an interesting one. There are 6 answers.
Oh.
Oh
no.
There are 6 answers to this one question, and they are that can't get my words out.
You got this.
The question is, Eve of the Daleks is one of 7 episodes to be set in universe on the same day that it aired. So it aired on the 1st of January 2022, and it was set on the 1st of January 2022, technically, at the end. There are 6 other episodes in New Who that have done the exact same thing. Please, okay, Ivy, name those 6 episodes.
This is just Chibnall, right?
No, this is
oh, no.
all of New Who. So all of New Who. So 2005 to now. So there are 6 episodes that have been aired on the date in which they are set. I think that makes sense. It's quite a hard concept to describe. But
okay, well, I feel like every Christmas special is a candidate for that. But
yeah, so, I mean, I think the list that I've got only does it for ones that are explicitly mentioned. So I'll give, as an example, A Christmas Carol. No, we know that that's set in the future. Just ignore me. But yes. If there's, I think so. But if there's a Christmas episode, unless they explicitly say this is the date,
okay,
I don't think that counts. But there are 6 where they explicitly mention the date, and it is the same as the episode being broadcast.
I feel like the Halloween Apocalypse is one because it was Halloween.
Correct. The Halloween Apocalypse is one. So you've got one.
So you mentioned this special, Eve of the Daleks.
So it's 6. There's 6 more excluding this one.
Okay, excluding. Okay.
So there's 7 in total.
Okay, I feel like the Vanquishers, because
spot on. Yeah, you got it.
Everyone was like, "Oh, the sign says it." Okay, I got 2.
Yeah, because I think everyone knows about those, because I think they changed. I think that with the Vanquishers, I think they changed the date in the promo images and stuff to the 5th of December, because I think originally it said a different date. But they changed it to match the air dates. But yeah, you've got 2. You've got a third of them already. So I think you've done well already, because this is quite difficult.
Okay. I feel like A Christmas. No, because that's in the future. Okay. I feel like Resolution.
Correct. Resolution, set on the 1st of January 2019. And obviously, for reference, The Vanquishers was the 5th of December 2021, and Halloween Apocalypse was the 31st of October 2021. So yeah, you've got 3 left, and I think these are probably the harder ones, because I'll give you a little hint. You are now straying out of the Chibnall era. You have all of the Chibnall era ones. You're going a bit earlier.
It's hard because I watched all the episodes on Netflix, so I didn't watch the great majority of Doctor Who when it aired. So I don't know if anything aired.
Oh yeah, that is tough. That is hard.
I only know from series 9 onward. So
You might struggle then. I mean, if I what I'll do, I'll tell you what doctor
Okay.
therefore, and then if you give me one shot for each doctor, and I'll take that answer, and we'll see how you do. Let's go there. So there is one 10th Doctor episode, and there are two 11th Doctor episodes.
Okay. Okay, let's 10th Doctor. Let me think.
But there is something that you said at the beginning that could be relevant for this. You made a point about the festive period and how that could be a hint.
Oh no, because I'm like a goldfish. I don't remember anything I've said. Oh. Yeah, I'm gonna listen back to this later and be like, that was a hint.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Well, now I'm trying to think of what I said. Okay, 11th Doctor is gonna be harder for me because I haven't watched so much of his era in so long.
Yeah, I mean these are hard when I think they're the kind of episodes that when I tell you, you'll probably kick yourself because the dates are very, very important to the story.
Right, and so that's why I'm leaning towards specials.
Okay.
Is that a good okay or a bad okay?
It's an okay.
It's an okay.
It's maybe not specials.
Okay.
But still big episodes. Big episodes. Big episodes.
Okay, I don't know, maybe like End of Time? Why do I feel like it's End of Time?
I mean, you've got the David one, correct. I'll give you it. The End of Time Part 1 is...
Oh my god!
The End of Time Part 1 is set, because Part 2 is obviously aired a week later, but it's still set on the 25th of December and Boxing Day, I think. But the End of Time Part 1, that is a great guess.
My family, I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank Russell Davies.
You've got 2/3, which is a very, very good effort.
Okay.
But if you want to take a pot shot at these 11th ones.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't go with my instinct, which was to say the Stolen Earth. But then I was like, no, I feel like it's the End of Time. Yeah. So I very narrowly avoided that. So 11th Doctor is going to be hard.
Remember, it's a big episode.
Okay.
Big. The word big.
I don't remember anything.
Oh no. These are pretty impossible.
Yeah, okay. So I'll feel less bad if I get them wrong. Maybe the 11th Hour? Does that ever say it?
Incorrect. Incorrect, okay. I'm afraid. Yeah. I'll give you one more go and see if you can get one, and then we'll call it quits.
Okay. The Impossible Astronaut, maybe?
Correct. What again?
Yes!
I mean, I tried very, very hard then when I said that they are impossible.
Because I feel like it was a summer episode.
The 22nd of April, 2011. Oh, really?
I don't know. For some reason, I thought it was like July.
Yeah, so it's the date, because the 22nd of April is the date that the Doctor dies on the beach.
Oh my gosh.
That's the key date. So yeah, 5 is a very good shout. Now I tried with that one because I did say that these were impossible. And
now you're saying it, and I'm like,
I also said it was a big episode. So do you want me to reveal it to you? Do you want me to reveal it? The last one is The Big Bang.
Oh man.
26th of June 2010. So it was set on it was the day that the universe dies. But Yeah, incredible effort. I mean,
Thank you. I'm surprised
if
I
they were
got
genuine guesses, two incredible guesses. I mean, you can just blag it and say that you knew if you want. And
I knew is the thing.
who knew? You knew, yeah. Well, that brings us to the end of the podcast. It's been an absolute hoot. I've loved talking about this episode, and I've loved
It was
Quiz
so much fun,
Chibnall.
and then we got to wrap it up. And
Yes.
so
Yeah. Well, before we go, I want to give you the chance to plug away. Be like BBC America and give me like a 5-minute ad break here.
yeah, well, let's
right
do a
now
little-
for you. This is Ivy's ad break. So please advertise whatever you want to plug.
Well, first for the behind the scenes, I'm sitting at my desk. I have coffee. I have Zoom. I have a frog plushie here. And now for the adverts. First of all, thank you all for listening. And my YouTube channel is called The Main Protagonist. My Twitter, which is where I'm most active, where I spend most of my days, is at Protagonist Ivy. And you can also find my YouTube link there. It's a little bit easier rather than just searching my channel name. And my Instagram is at The Main Protagonist with an underscore because someone stole the username while I was switching accounts. And I think those are my main links. I'm mostly on Twitter at Protagonist Ivy, and you can kind of find everything else by extension there.
Yeah. Happy days. And I must say, I know that you've returned to YouTube stuff relatively recently, and that's when I sort of discovered your YouTube channel, and your content is marvelous. And I've been watching your videos, so it's very, very good. So please all go subscribe. I'll put all of the links in the video description and in the podcast description as well. So if you want to go find it, and in terms of my plugs. You've been listening to Who Knew a Doctor Who podcast. You can find us on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, just search Who Knew Doctor Who podcast. It should come up. Or you're already listening to this, so wherever you listen to it now, you'll find it again next week or whenever there's another episode. You can find us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast, on Instagram at whoknewdwpod. You can email us as well. I always forget to mention this, at whoknewdwpod@gmail.com if you want to send me an email for any reason. And yeah, it's a new year, and the podcast is hopefully going to be doing big things this year. I have some plans that I am currently setting in place and some guests that I would like to get on, including yourself, because obviously I need to get you on the main show as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm on the first overseas and the first sort of half episode of the new year.
Yeah, I mean, I count this as a full episode. So that, I mean, from here on in, Who Knew is international. So I can say that now. I have guests from all over the world. But yeah, and obviously we've got Patreon as well. If you want to support the podcast, and you can, I'm going to maybe rejig a few things over the next couple of weeks to update the rewards. But you'll get your name at the end of every podcast. You can get discounts to the Who Knew merch store, so you can get a Who Knew t-shirt as well if you like. International shipping on those as well, which is very exciting. So yeah, that's about it. But yeah, thank you all for listening. I hope you all enjoyed Eve of the Daleks, and we'll be back for more of this for Legend of the Sea Devils. Very, very exciting. And in between, there will be a lot of Who Knew coming your way. There might be a little break for a week or two at the beginning of January, but then I'll be back. But yeah,
relax.
Yes, kick back, relax. Ivy, thank you once again for coming on. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And for everyone listening, I'll say what I always love to say, which is stay safe, happy, and healthy. Yeah.
Oh, lovely way of ending it. Lovely way. And what I always say, which is thank you for listening. See you later. So.
Yeah, bye.
Big thank you to all of our patrons, and a massive shout out to Alfie Innes and Cal King. Thanks for listening to Who Knew, a Doctor Who podcast. You can check us out wherever you get your podcasts and now on YouTube. Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you can, as it really helps us out. And a massive thanks to the Sononauts for lending their cover of the Doctor Who theme to be the theme for the podcast.